Hello, good morning, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
I am Sunday Michael. It's a beautiful morning. I've decided to look like Ibrahim today. I hope the cap fits me.
Yeah, the cap does fit.
I have struggled to find one the size of my head. I hope this one rests. Hopefully the head will shrink and the cap will expand.
Or the cap will expand, exactly.
It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning for another beautiful edition of Daybreak on Trust Television.
All right, it is Daybreak on Trust TV, and we go straight to the headlines this morning. Buhari visits Kuje prison after attack as fear grips FCT residents.
FG still has 40% stake. Power Minister speaks on Dixo takeover.
And core members raped at gunpoint in Akwa Ibom.
Fortunately, the news in detail at this moment. There is a palpable fear among residents of the Federal Capital Territory over the attack on the Kuje Correctional Center. The prison facility was attacked by a large number of terrorists on Tuesday night. The invaders were said to have used dynamite to destroy the heavily fortified facility, including the Central Terrorism Unit, freeing most of the terrorists there. The facility, Daily Trust Land, had over 1,000 inmates at the time of the attack. Some of the residents who spoke with Daily Trust Wednesday morning described it as unfortunate. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday made a surprising stopover at the Kuje Correctional Center, Abuja, for an on-the-spot assessment of the level of damage done to the facility by the invading terrorists.
Minister of Power, Engineer Abubakar Aliyu, says the federal government still has 40% stake in electricity distribution companies, or DISCOs. The minister said this while reacting to the takeover of 5 DISCOs by African Bank, Fidelity Bank, and the Assets Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON. According to the minister, the ministry has received confirmation from the BPE and the Central Bank of Nigeria that in exercising the rights of lenders to core investors, the financial institutions do not retain the ownership of the shares and management of the DISCOs in perpetuity.
And moving on, some female members of the National Youth Service Corps in Akwa Ibom State have been raped. They were assaulted when gunmen invaded a corps lodge in Uyo, the state capital. It was gathered that the gunmen invaded the area on tricycle at about 1 a.m. and carted away valuables, including laptops, cell phones, and money. A female corps member who preferred to remain unnamed said her phone, laptop, and money were taken away from her by force after the hoodlums entered her room through the back door.
Now, that is quite tragic and sad indeed. Well, moving on to other reports now. Authorities of the Kuje Custodial Center say no fewer than 879 inmates escaped when the center came under attack on Tuesday night. Of this number, the center says it has rearrested at least 443, while a personnel of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps attached to the custodial center was killed and 3 personnel of the service seriously injured. Musa Luka was at the custodial center and now reports.
The Kuje prison, where the event or the infiltration happened yesterday night at about 10 to 10:30 p.m. in the evening, as it has been confirmed by the Minister of Defense. Burned vehicles, especially burned buildings, and generally quiet atmosphere welcome visitors to the center. It came under heavy shelling on Tuesday night when terrorists broke into the custodial center using explosive devices through the main entrance and the fence of the facility. Presently, 551 inmates are currently in custody, while 443 inmates are still at large. Government functionaries have been visiting the facility to ascertain the extent of damage with a view of restoring and equipping it to forestall future occurrence. Among the functionaries is the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, who had earlier confirmed the attack.
I think we are trying to see what we can do to ensure that all the escapees are brought back to the prison yard. And I think the prison is accommodating about 994 inmates and SKP about, we have about 600 already inside now.
Following shortly was the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Shuaibu Belgore, and the FCT Minister, Musa Bello, accompanied by the Goma of Kuje, Al-Haji Haruna Tanko Jibrin.
At least we have retrieved about 300 out of about 600 that got out of the prison cells. And the retrieval is going on. We receive reports that there are still about 50, 60 that have been intercepted somewhere just a little outside town here.
The gallant officers that tried their best, and also to sympathize over the death of a very fine, gallant officer from the Nigerian Civil Defense Authority who was gunned down by the criminals.
The residents of Kuje community who are apprehensive that the escaped terrorists may be lurking around the unleashed mayhem of the community narrated their experience and urged the federal government to address the situation.
They see like this thing don't too much. You don't lose too much because so kind of way they always up for prison. Maybe today, maybe say tomorrow they will talk. Because you don't always happen steady. Like yesterday we things solved yesterday. We did Junction prison. We did on Junction there. We just stand. Before we know, we just hear something like thing just explode quick. Dim. The first time, second one explode. Dim. Before we know, just hear soldier man say no begin run. Soldier man wait there. When he's supposed to go come prison to come begin the base. Who too come begin the base. And so all of us come begin the run. One day. For one day house, come hear people, they come, they shout, they shoot up and down yesterday. People got uniform begin come out, begin to pursue everybody.
His bomb that exploded yesterday, last night, and it scared a lot of people. People around the scatter. And I feel bad about it. For years now, I've been living in this Kuje. I hear insecurity, I hear about bomb, but I have never experienced such a thing like this.
Meanwhile, the service says it will deploy its corrections information management system in synergy with National Identity Management Commission to track all fleeing inmates and return them to custody. It also confirmed that DCP Abba Kyari and other VIPs held in the facility did not escape, adding that some of the attackers were killed, with others escaping with gunshot wounds. From the Kuje prison, I am Musa Luka Musa, Trust TV.
Sad incident there in the nation's capital, and still staying with the stories of attack. Relative of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack victims on Wednesday staged a peaceful protest in Kaduna demanding the immediate release of the remaining victims from the hands of their abductors. The protest is sequel to a recent threat by the terrorists that they would start slaughtering their abductors if negotiations for their release fails. The report.
All we are saying, free our people. All we are saying, free our people.
Despite series of protests by the relatives of the abducted passengers and negotiations, about 50 people are still in captivity. Although a number of the abducted victims were released unharmed, the remaining abducted passengers are in danger following the recent threat by the abductors that they will start slaughtering the abductees should the negotiations fail to yield results. It is for this reason that the relatives and friends of the victims are calling to the government to, as a matter of urgency, secure the release of their relatives.
And I'm here to talk about my auntie. She's the only person I have and no one I have. Please, government should help us and release them in Jesus' name.
That's not been easy because during this rainy season, for you to be sleeping at home, even in your bed, the weather is too cold. Talk more of people that are in the bush. So you will not sleep. You just wake up and start crying and start praying.
The trauma has been something else, honestly. We are still appealing to the government to please do all it can to bring our loved ones to us in no distant time.
The prayed government will come up with a tangible and workable solution before it is too late.
Today is exactly 100 days since our loved ones were abducted in the ill-fated AK-9 train attack. It was a journey of 2 hours that has turned to 100 harrowing days. We have been appealing to the government and security agencies in the last 100 days to rescue our loved ones. But so far, we have not seen much.
We are calling on the government to do the needful. In as much as we are given the opportunity, you understand, to hear our views. We feel it is important. We feel it is imperative for the government to come to the aid of these people and they will hear their demands.
Government is talking of everybody going to school. Children no longer attend to school now. Students don't go to school because of fear of being kidnapped or being killed.
According to media reports, Ansaru Group said in an audio recording they will start killing the kidnapped passengers in 24 hours if the government failed to seek for their release.
And moving on now to other reports. No fewer than 9,989 out of the 10,000 police recruits on Wednesday passed out from the Police College Kaduna, with 11 recruits failing to meet the standards set for the exercise during the training. Now, the passing out parade is the Inspector General of Police, Baba Alkali, represented by the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Dammalam, urged the newly recruited constables to contribute their quota to the fight against security challenges in the country in a disciplined manner. The report.
The new recruit will help the Nigerian police that has been overstretched by insecurity due to inadequate personnel in the country. DIG Muhammad Dammalam, who stood in for the IGP, says the recruitment exercise is a testament to the determination of the Nigerian police in addressing security issues of the country.
The recruitment exercise projects the determination of the federal government to address the social factors that accentuate the commission of crimes, which is unemployment. The import of taking 10,000 able and active youths out of unemployment market annually is that the young men and women have been saved from temptation of crimes and given a platform to rather fight the menace of crime.
While reminding them that the force has zero tolerance for indiscipline, he admonished the recruit to avoid acts capable of tarnishing the image of the force.
I must sound this note of warning loud and clear enough to you all. The bedrock of policing is discipline. The force under my leadership has a zero tolerance for indiscipline and any act that may be antithetical to police professionalism.
The IGP further assured the citizen that a new police is being evolved to protect them against bad elements in the society.
And still staying with the Nigerian police, the Inspector General of Police has directed the posting of new recruits to their states to complement community policing. The IG disclosed this through DIG Zanna Mohammed at the passing out parade of 2022 batch of the Nigerian Police College in Maiduguri. The report.
It is the passing out parade of 1,087 recruited constables at the Police College, Maiduguri. The ceremony attracted friends, colleagues, families and loved ones from across the capital and other states. Of the approximately 10,000 shortlisted nationwide, only 9,989 made it to the force, as 11 recruit trainees failed the exercise. The annual recruitment is to help bridge the manpower gap in the force, reduce unemployment, and help tackle insecurity in the country.
That was the voice of DSP Umar, the division team. No instructor. What a rolling! Beautifully! Amazing performance, intelligent performance. Glorious performance by this unit. Beautiful. Uniformly. While they march out, ladies and gentlemen,
beyond addressing the manpower deficiency in the Nigeria Police Force, the federal government, under President Muhammadu Buhari, has remained committed to closing the gaps in relation to the operational efficiency of the force as well as welfare regime of the force. In line with this, aside approving an increasing welfare package of the Nigeria Police Force, the Ministry of Police Affairs, Police Trust Fund, and indeed well-meaning corporate bodies have been complementing the force leadership in the procurement and delivery of operational vehicles, weaponry, and civil disorder assets, while also creating manpower development opportunities for personnel, all in furtherance to the drive to add value to policing. In essence, all of you, the graduating recruit constables, are coming into a reformed police force.
Constables who are now passing out, particularly Borno State indigents, please bear in mind, you are ambassadors of this state. You are recruited to defend and protect this country, ensure law and order. Be good ambassadors of this state wherever you may find yourself.
These recruits, according to the Inspector General of Police, will be posted to their various states as a way of boosting policing strategies in addressing communal crimes.
And switching gears now, with less than 72 hours to this year's Eid al-Kabir, prices of vegetables and some essential commodities in Kano have been reduced. But the people's purchasing power still cannot match the reduced prices. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin, who went around some markets across the state, reports that government's inability to pay workers' salary may have worsened the situation.
Yankaba is one of the largest vegetable markets within Kano metropolis. The place is always booming, especially during a period like this. Tomato, onions, and other vegetables never cease from here. Few months back, a basket of tomato is sold at between 25 to 35,000 naira, while a bag of onions is at between 30 to 45,000 naira. Now the price has significantly reduced, but the purchasing power of the people is poor at the moment. People do not have money. Now that it's Salah period, they are supposed to have money to buy the things they needed. Like me, I bought these tomatoes at almost 12,000 naira. But if you give me 11,000 naira, I will collect because there are no buyers. Back at the popular Kantunkwari textile market, things are somehow dry. Although women have taken over shopping here, but they say clothes are very expensive this year.
Everything is expensive. I came to buy veil and shoe, but I can no longer afford it. It's too expensive. I have to go back with my money because everything is expensive.
According to some Kano residents, state government inability to pay workers' salary is largely responsible for the poor purchasing power of the people. There is no money. Traders among us cannot sell since we don't have money to buy. I think government need to make things easier for people. With the high cost of sacrificial animals and the rising prices of food items and other essential commodities, things appeared bleak for ordinary people this year. And there are even concerns that these things could get worse in the next coming days unless something is done to ease the suffering of the poor masses. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Everyone is indeed looking forward to what can be done to ease the suffering of the poor masses. Everything, if you like, has been on the rise. Everything seems to be against the ability of the average man to continue to survive what is thrown at it. We continue to keep up with hope that someday, somehow, we all would be able to look back at these times and say, those were the, whatever had happened were in the time past. We will take a break at this time, and when we return, we will serve you with what the newspapers are saying today.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Welcome back. It's Daybreak on Trust TV, and well, now it's time for us to take a look at the front pages of the newspapers to see what they have this morning. Well, as usual, we're starting with the Daily Trust, and it carries this major headline: Why Kaduna train attackers invaded Kuje prison. And it comes with these riders: Target police formation, Kainji, Niger prisons. ISWAP claims attack. Actionable intelligence ignored, 2 police officers nabbed for complicity. And I'm disappointed with our intelligence system, says Buhari. Northern elders don't lash at president over Senegal trip. That is the major headline on the front page of the Daily Trust. Moving down the page, intrigues trail 5 discos shake-up as firms kick. And other stories here. Gunmen invade NYSC Lodge in Anambra, rape women. The story can be found on page 6. Community policing, 10,000 recruits to be deployed to own local government areas, says the Inspector General of Police. Ekiti man bags life for raping 85-year-old stepmom. That story can be found on page 17. If you move to the top half of the page, tributes as OPEC boss Barikindo buried in Adamawa. That story can be found on page 24. PTAD pays 17.73 billion naira pension liabilities. And Katsina mourns courageous police officer ACP Umar. Details of that story can be found on page 3. Well, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Moving on now to the Guardian newspaper. The flagship has the major headline this morning. As Buhari decries poor intelligence at Kuje prison break, demands probe. Defense Minister confirms 64 Boko Haram suspect escaped. Kaduna train attackers likely behind Kuje prison invasion. Gumi spokesman says soldiers were posted out of Kuje prison same day of the attack. APC complicit in the attack, PDP alleges. ADC presidential candidate Kachuku urges Buhari to resign over worsening insecurity. Akeredolu condemns attack on Buhari's convoy. It says state police solution to security. 100 days in captivity. Family of freight train victims protest. These are all the riders beneath the major story on the flagship this morning. And we have the major belts there below the name marks. Buhari, OPEC, industry stakeholders mourn Barkindo's sudden death. Kenyan court freezes Flutterwave account orders over alleged money laundering. That story you'll find on page 2 of The Guardian. And directly below the major picture there, which is coming from the Kuje attack, you'll find drama as NACOM chair is prevented from traveling to Saudi Arabia over stranded pilgrims. That story is on page 4. Boris Johnson faces uncertainty as over 30 members of government resign. Amazing. Court asks to stop APC INEC from replacing Masari as Tinubu's running mate. That story is on page 2. And NAVJET reportedly bombs Katsina community. And that story you will find on page 30. These are the major stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
All right, the next newspaper we're looking at this morning is the Daily Independent, and it carries this headline, Jailbreak, Buhari queries security structure at Kuje prison. And it comes with these riders, expresses shock at level of destruction. 4 dead, 443 inmates recaptured. DCP Abakari, others VIP still in custody. And ISWAP claims responsibility for attack. These are the riders under the major headline of the Daily Independent. Then we switch now to politics. APC VP candidate Tinubu stuck between El Rufai and Shetima. And it has this rider, party chieftains ask court to stop APC INEC from replacing Masari. Other stories here, Buhari shuffles cabinet, swears in 7 ministers on page 7. Federal government targets 720 billion naira from bond issuance in Q3. And impeachment, embattled Oyo deputy governor knows fate July 26. 2 die in Lagos boat mishap, and courts grants Okorocha permission to travel abroad for medical care. And right there at the top of the page, renegotiated agreement. We have done our part. FG delaying reopening of universities, says ASU. And again, FG accuses marketers of orchestrating fuel crisis. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning.
We'll move on straight to the Sun newspaper, the Daily Sun. And in keeping with the tradition of the other papers we have reviewed this morning, the major headline here, of course, is still staying with the Kuje attack. Aftermath of Kuje prison attack, fears in Abuja over Boko Haram inmate escape. Minister says 879 prisoners on the run, 443 others recaptured, 4 confirmed dead, 16 injured. Attack outcome of government refusal to listen to my advice, Gumi. And right there is the belt below the name marks. 2 adopted Catholic priests in Edo regain freedom. That's a delightful one, I'm sure, to the Catholic community. Obi replies Kwankwaso on link to IPOB, reminds NNPP presidential candidate of activities of Boko Haram bandit kidnappers in the north, says agitation product of leadership failure. We have pictures there of the wanton destruction that was left behind by the attack on the Kuje prison. U.S. raises the alarm on possible spike in crime, terrorist attack in and around Abuja. Urges nationals to avoid travel on airport road in the next 2 weeks. UK asks citizens to be security conscious. This does not make the situation any better, I guess. I am disappointed at our intelligence system, Buhari declares after visiting Kuje prison. You find that story on page 6. Impeachment. Court fixes July 26 for judgment in suit filed by Deputy Governor as Oyo Assembly directs CJ to set up investigative panel. President reshuffle cabinet assigns new ministers portfolio, reassigns Mamora, Ikazo, Sambo, and Saraki. NLC reiterates call for upward review of worker salary. That story is on page 26. Ekwere Madu Court orders NMIC to submit David Ukpo's biodata to the Attorney General of the Federation. That story is on page 4. Governors lament dwindling inflow into FAC. Warns they may soon not be able to pay workers' salary. And we have a belt there below. FG Kalu orders Mon OPEC Secretary General Bakindo. These are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Sun.
The next newspaper we're taking a look at is the Nigerian Tribune. And of course, it carries the major headline, Kuje prison attack. ISWAP claims responsibility. 64 Boko Haram members escape. And it carries these riders. 5 killed, 443 inmates at large. Abakari Darie Nyame safe in custody. And it also carries a quote there from the president when he was expressing his disappointment with the security apparatus. Still talking security, terrorists threaten to start killing kidnapped Abuja-Kaduna train passengers. That is another headline on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. And well, moving on now to politics. APC delegates ask court to stop Masari replacement as Tinubu running mate. And Buhari, Silva, OPEC mourn as Barikindo dies at 63, buried in Yola. Well, another grim headline right here on the front page of the Nigeria Tribune reads, fuel queues to remain until full deregulation, says the federal government, and blames rising diesel costs on Russia-Ukraine war. Average daily petrol consumption now 60 million litres, Pengerson tells reps. And the belts on top of the nameplates. Ekwere Madu court orders NIMSI to supply David Ukpo's biodata to account AGF for onward transmission to UK court. Impeachment. Oyo Assembly directs Chief Judge to set up probe panel on Deputy Governor, and court fixes July 26th for judgment. Another headline on the front page of the Tribune reads, again, peace effort on Osun PDP crisis suffers setback. Okoa mulls fresh plans. Party holds grand rally in Osogbo today. Well, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
And moving on now to the Blueprint newspaper, also staying with happenings in Kuje. Investigation, how intelligence failure, insiders conspiracy led to Kuje jailbreak. Terrorists hit facility in their hundreds. Buhari alarmed, raises posers on defense failure. All Boko Haram detainees escaped, according to the federal government. NSCDC officers, 4 inmates killed, 578 recaptured. Terrorism can't stop president foreign trip. That's according to the presidency. Amazing. Right beside the nameplate, you have NEF tackles APC PDP over presidential running mate. And then we have other stories there. Dangote customers to enjoy 1 billion naira in new promo. We have other stories there. Serve with diligence, loyalty, Buhari charges new ministers. Insecurity, El-Rufai inaugurates early warning strategy committee in Southern Kaduna. You have this and many more if you pick up the front page of the Blueprint newspaper.
All right, well, that's the much we can take from the headlines this morning on the papers. We'll take a short break, and when we return, our resident newspaper analyst is right here in the studio to help us dissect some of these headlines. So do stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
Good morning and welcome back to Daybreak on Trust Television. It is that time when we delve straight into the analysis of the issues as captured by the major newspaper. And we have with us our regular reviewer today, looking bright and all sparky, our own delectable general editor of the Daily Trust newspaper, Malam Hamza Idris. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
What a fitting time to have Mr. Malam Hamza, well, Mr. and Malam, I will continue to alternate that, in the studio, because most of the papers today seem to be dominated by issues that border on security. And you know he's a disaster expert. Well, not in the frame of the disaster minister. And he would be able to give us some very deep and insightful analysis of this issue. I mean, we all saw the Kuje train attack. I was reading all kinds of reports before the papers really helped us unravel all of the issues around it. Kuje prison is just 22 kilometers from the airport, which is another critical facility in the FCT. Before you come into the FCT, there is a major military checkpoint. There's also a major military barrack now beginning to develop right opposite the University of Abuja. So you wonder how these people, with the kind of numbers we hear, could have coordinated this, well, in the words of Lai Mohammed, fantastic attack, if you like, on a facility like Kuje. What's your take?
Some people, they are expressing shock and surprises, but not us here in Daily Trust, because we predicted this, not because of guesswork, but we are also intelligent people. We look at the trajectory, we look at happenings. We raise the alarm that if the neighboring states are not safe, Abuja will never be safe. We reported this, and people in the corridors of power are happy with us. But we keep saying, if you have issues around Nasarawa borders, you have issues around Niger, you have issues around Kaduna, these are contiguous states, and you've been having security breaches. So it's just a matter of time. And we also reported that they wanted to embarrass the federal government. Now, what more embarrassment are you looking for? Kuje prisons, you have all sorts of criminals there, high profile criminals. But apart from the architectural design, it is meant to be a medium security facility. But you have all sorts of high-profile Boko Haram, those arrested many years back, and then those that were arrested of recent. And based on our findings, they targeted that place for many reasons. Number one, show of force. Number two, to embarrass the federal government. And most importantly, to release their people. You know, the same set of people were those who attacked the Abuja Kaduna bound train and abducted some people. Over 3 months now, they are with them. And underground, there had been talks, but personally, I know that the talks will not lead to anywhere. Yes, because the federal government says it would not actually agree to the terms, which is fair enough. But if you want to do things like this, you should do it from position of strength. meaning the terrorists should know that you have superior power. I'm sorry to say this. All over the world now, people believe that the terrorists have an edge. And the advantage they have now has multiplied by more than 1,000%. Yes, because with the invasion of the Kuje prison, and they have set out all the captives, especially because they had their targets. When they went there, it's not that they did a guesswork. No, it was a well-planned invasion, and then they went to the strategic places, blew them up, and then tactically exited with their members. So for now, you know, I saw a report where families of victims of the attack calling on the federal government to release their loved ones. Now, how can the federal government do that? That's all the silent question. So, above all what they are saying, the bottom line is that the terrorists now have an edge over us, and it's really sad.
Yeah, well, we'll circle back to that, because that's going to form the fulcrum of our discussion on the program this morning. So let's move slightly away from that now and talk about something that is actually bothering Nigerians a lot. I know Sunday is very, very much affected by this. Field queues, they're still here. And we are seeing some reports on the front pages of the dailies telling us that the queues will remain until the sector is completely deregulated, meaning there's no end in sight for us. What's your take on this?
Government has been deceiving the people, and the people have been living on false hope. Yes, he is a business reporter, and we read business stories. The model is not there. We are actually deceiving ourselves. 60 or more years down the line, we are still talking about building, fixing refineries. We're talking about, look at the euphoria after the PIA, petroleum industry, was passed. And then just 2 weeks ago, what did the president say? That it's not really time for Nigeria to remove fuel subsidy. And now some people are telling you the regulate. I think they have maybe mic phobia, that whoever picks the microphone will just, be confused, and they say all sorts of things. Those who have traveled, I have traveled widely, and I know that there are many countries that don't even have the oil, but they are now supplying it to us. Because they will come and buy the crude, they will go there, refine it, extract
value.
In fact, it is like free to them. I said this here, 2006, I was at Apti University, and then I interviewed one petroleum engineer, a white fellow. He said, Nigeria is just dashing this country its crude. When we claim that, is it 100 or 60 or whatever, he said they're just giving us peanuts. Because if you see what they extract from it, apart from the main petroleum product, it's really disgusting. Yes, and you ask, is it that we cannot even borrow to build the refineries? Or there is a deliberate sabotage? So I don't trust what they are saying. Because a few months ago, they said it was because we imported adulterated, or that was what caused the breach, and it will be resolved within a month. After some time, now they started blaming
the Russian.
Ukraine. Later they will say there is war in Cameroon. It's not true. We're just really not ready for nationhood. This is the summary of it, because people laugh at us that at this level we've been having this, oil and gas for decades, but up to now we can't, even get the product to fuel our vehicles, to, fuel industries that will generate employment. And we can't even, fuel our power grids to supply electricity. So why do we even have the products in the first place? You see, so it's really sad, and people should be responsible. If you are given a task, you should do it. You see, I read it somewhere. Someone was analyzing that you can't dismiss the president from all this mess, because look at that time when he was Minister of Petroleum. Was it during Gowon?
Yes.
He has been in the mainstream oil sector up till this time. Now, what will he tell Nigerians in his memo about the mess in the petroleum? Because if you have been part and parcel of it, directly or indirectly, because even during Abacha, they gave him
PTF.
PTF. If I were him, I would just build some refineries that time. Of course, he has done his best, because it was during his time when depots were established and all that. But are the depots working now? You have to now take the product from Lagos to Maiduguri, destroying the roads. You can't even pass it. I was shocked in Switzerland when I saw a train at the airport, train navigated, with more than 40 cargos, because it was just passing. And there were trailer, trucks loaded with petroleum with their tires and all that. I think they are the ones that we buy as Tokumbo to bring them here. But they don't allow these trucks
to ply the road.
Yes, apart from the fact that they have these depots across, now maybe intra-city, they now use train to take these trucks, so that from the substations, they only, drive few kilometers to these charge points. And that is why you see, they're not even talking about roads, because they have built them to standard, and for hundreds of years, they don't really need to do anything there. But I hope that maybe our leaders will have a second thought, because they also travel and they see what is happening, that we get it right here.
True. Talking about traveling, I think we have one of the most traveled presidents in the world. Every time his spokesperson will come back and they will tell us takeaway from the United States. I hope there are real takeaways that Nigerians can see from this trip.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a sad day. We all woke up, having processed several news materials and statements from Barkindo to his visit to the president and the plans of OPEC to increase Nigeria's or most countries' output and all. But the next morning, he had gone to be with his creator. He was looking quite healthy and full of life, very cerebral, one of Nigeria's finest. He was one time the Caesar of our own national oil company, and he moved on to the international quarters where he had done creditably well, and we were hoping, according to the words of the president, to welcome him back with pomp and pageantry sometimes later this month, and the Supreme Being called him to himself.
Day before, that was that Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
It was really tough for us in the newsroom, because initially during the day we had our lead. We finished before 8. Then suddenly the killing of the Assistant Commissioner of Police in Katsina, the story came up. We quickly started, yes, and then the attack on the president's convoy. So and then we rounded up when the Kuje something happened. We were able to have some paragraphs, yes. So we closed in the morning, let me put it mildly. So when we came for review yesterday, our deputy news editor, because he saw the Barkindo story, full of smile when he visited the president. And then we started saying this man was gone. I saw the shock, on his face. How? Because it's like the man died less than 10 hours after his meeting with the president. They are yet to formally announce it, but they said actually heart failure for them. But this goes to show you the ephemeral
nature
of life. And it's so transient that while you are thinking of,
tomorrow and the day after.
yeah, you just, die. If you're talking about people who lived a fulfilled life, definitely you cannot maybe count 10 without, yeah, especially in northern part of Nigeria, because he has been in the corridors of power for a very long time, good job and all that, and he was full of life, but you can see. So it's a big message, as I said earlier, that do your best while you have the opportunity, because tomorrow might not come. Yes, we are all sad with his demise, just the way we are sad with the Assistant Commissioner of Police. We pray God will grant him Al-Jannah and the family to bear the irreparable loss. But we lost an immense talent there. Yes, he's just rounding up his tenure at OPEC and maybe thinking of coming back home, maybe to join politics or something else, but he's gone. Yeah.
Well, it is quite sad indeed. One other issue that has generated a lot of comments or controversy, is this controversy surrounding the power distribution companies. Some have been taken over, some by commercial banks, others by AMCON, and there's been some restructuring here and there, new boards being inaugurated for these power distribution companies. A lot of people will point fingers at those power distribution companies for the current mess that we're in right now when it comes to the power sector, even though a lot of people have their own arguments despite that. What does this portend, this new takeover and all these, what does it portend for the power sector? Are there any changes that we expect?
I am not expecting any change, because you see, in 2030, right, when they privatized and gave most of these licenses to this discourse, did they do the right thing? Who are the owners? When you look at the owners, they were the people, in the corridors of power at that time. Some, if you bring screwdriver to them, they will ask you what they will do with it, because they have nothing to do with engineering. They have nothing to do with, power distribution or whatever. But simply because they were in a privileged position, they grab all the licenses to themselves. And it's not wrong if you do it the right way, because you mustn't read mass communication to be a journalist, but you must have passion for journalism to now venture into because it's a tough terrain. So you mustn't read, but if you have passion. Now these people, do they really have passion to turn around power fortune in Nigeria? I think it's just about the gains. So they got it, and then instead of also investing to get the right people, because as I said, you can establish a hospital even if you are not a medical doctor, but if you get the finest doctors, nurses, lab scientists and all that, and you stay strictly to the rules, you will get it right. But these same people, after acquiring it, they put their children, their nephews and all that, their cronies, to manage something they don't have knowledge of. And that is why we are where we are. And then they borrowed money, right? Apart from the money they borrowed, what about intervention from government? But up to now, you're talking about meters. What kind of country is this, please? Mala Ibrahim. So, Fidelity, UBA took over Abuja last year. Now, this week, Fidelity taking over, they are taking over Kaduna, Kano, and Benin. But the owners, you can't be an owner if you are heavily indebted.
Unfortunately, one last one before we let Bala Hamza go for the day. We saw that unfortunate report coming in from Uyo, the invasion of female hostess of corps members who were raped. Sometimes you think you have heard it all in this country, and then something else happens, and it just, I mean, your daughter, wherever she is, you think is there to provide service to her country, and should be provided the maximum protection, and then you hear stories like this. How do you feel as a father, you know, when you get this kind of news?
Sad, frightened, and depressed. Yes, because you see, some of these atrocities are not really for the fun of it. Many youths in Nigeria, they have lost hope in the system, and they have submitted their lives to juju men who will now tell them to go and do awkward things. How will you go and rape? We still have another story there. Somebody went and raped his 85-year-old stepmom. Now, how will you reconcile this? And probably somebody told him that he should rape her, he will be rich. So even these miscreants who invaded the corps members' lodge, you know, maybe they were high on drugs. It may not be for spiritual purposes. Yeah, but you can see they robbed them, and then they saw the opportunity to actually rape them. Yeah, but is there any joy in that? I'm sure they did what they did under the influence of drugs, and this calls for more effort in actually, and they're doing well. Yes, but we need to do more so that youths will not have access to some of these drugs that actually, you know, take them off the world. They become something else to perpetrate all sorts of crimes. But it is really sad. You can see why some parents are saying they will not allow their children to go beyond the gate of their house to serve. Some of us, I served in Akwa Ibom State, you know, over 20 years ago, and in a Christian-dominated community, in a church school, and up till today, I'm happy with what happened, because I met wonderful people. Some of the students we taught those days, they are also now graduates. Yes, they are working in place, and we have established, you know, serious relationship. I cited an example here that a friend, I mean, a student I taught there, when he was to get married, to a lady who also went to Akwa Ibom to get married, you know, from Plateau. His parents said that he has to prove that she's the right person. And then he said his teacher, who taught him, is also from Plateau, because I was born and brought up. But you know the irony, this young girl is a Christian from Southern Plateau, but in Akwa Ibom, myself and her were seen as the same. And he brought her here, these premises. He came with her, said that I want to marry this lady, so I want to know more about her. So you can see how important NYSC was in those days. It was meant to actually heal the wounds of the civil war, to bring Nigeria together. But now, parents are afraid to actually release them, and rightly. How will you now allow your daughter to go somewhere that you cannot actually guarantee her safety? I hope we get it right.
All right. Well, that's quite grim indeed. Well, we just hope that things actually get better. Well, that's how we'll wrap up the analysis of the papers on Daybreak this morning. But Mala Hamza will remain with us. We're going to keep him here for a little while longer, as he will form part of the main thrust of our discussion this morning on Daybreak. So do stay with us. We will be right back.
Every patriotic Nigerian should hear this. Any politician who means well for the people will never allow themselves or their supporters to engage in any violent, destructive activities. No politician who truly wants to serve the people and develop the nation will encourage his followers to destroy properties or take human lives before, during, or after the elections. The Nigerian public must watch out for these traits and isolate any politician who encourages supporters to engage in violence. No genuine politician or patriot will cause trouble and seek to destroy the very society which they aspire to lead or develop. Politicians who have the good of the people at heart will not allow themselves or their followers to engage in violence, destruction of properties, and then taking of lives. Be vigilant. By their words you shall know them. Shun violence. Stay away from politicians who want you to do so. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NORA.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Good morning, Nigeria, once again, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. It's been some interesting conversation back end. I'm sure you want to know what it is, but we will serve you tidbits of that when the time comes. It has to do with One Nigeria and how everybody seems to be connected with everybody. Ibrahim someday would be able to tell you that story. That story online. But it's a pleasure to have you join us. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
Yeah, it is a beautiful morning here, right here in the nation's capital, and it's Daybreak on Trust TV. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
We move straight to the headlines this morning. Buhari visits Kuje prison after attack as fear grips FCD resident.
And federal government still has 40% stake. Power Minister speaks on Disco's takeover.
And moving on, core members raped at gunpoint in Akwa Ibom.
And now the details. There is palpable fear among residents of the Federal Capital Territory over the attack on the Kuje Correctional Center. The prison facility was attacked by a large number of terrorists on Tuesday night. The invaders were said to have used dynamite to destroy the heavily fortified facility, including the Central Terrorism Unit, freeing most of the terrorists there. The facility, Daily Trust learned, had over 1,000 inmates at the time of the attack. Some of the residents who spoke with Daily Trust Wednesday morning described it as unfortunate. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday made a surprising stopover at the Kuje Correctional Center, Abuja, for an on-the-spot assessment of the level of damage done to the facility by the invading terrorists.
And moving on to other reports, the Minister of Power, Engineer Abubakar Aliyu, said the federal government still has 40% stake in electricity distribution companies, DISCO. The minister said this while reacting to the takeover of 5 DISCOs by Afrexim Bank, Fidelity Bank, and the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. According to the minister, the ministry has received confirmation from the BPE and the Central Bank of Nigeria that in exercising the rights of lenders to the core investors, the financial institutions do not retain the ownership of the shares and management of the DISCOs in perpetuity.
Now, some female members of the National Youth Service Corps in Akwa Ibom State have been raped. Now, they were assaulted when gunmen invaded the Corpus Lodge in Uyo, the state capital. It was gathered that the gunmen invaded the area on tricycles at about 1 a.m. and carted away valuables, including laptops, cell phones, and money. A female corps member who preferred to remain unnamed said her phones, laptop and money were taken away from her by force after the hoodlums entered her room through the back door.
That is the wrap on the highlight of the news this morning. And moving on, relatives of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack and victims on Wednesday staged a peaceful protest in Kaduna, demanding the immediate release of the remaining victims from the hands of their abductors. The protest is sequel to a recent threat by the terrorists that they would start slaughtering the adoptees in negotiations if the negotiations for their release fails. The report.
All we are saying, free our people. All we are saying, free our people.
Despite series of protests by the relatives of the abducted passengers and negotiations, about 50 people are still in captivity. Although a number of the abducted victims were released unharmed, the remaining abducted passengers are in danger following the recent threat by the abductors that they will start slaughtering the abductees should the negotiations fail to yield results. It is for this reason that the relatives and friends of the victims are calling to the government to, as a matter of urgency, secure the release of their relatives.
And I'm here to talk about my auntie. She's the only person I have and no one I have. Please, government should help us and release them in Jesus' name.
That's not been easy because during this rainy season, for you to be sleeping at home, even in your bed, the weather is too cold. Talk more of people that are in the bush. So you will not sleep. You just wake up and start crying and start praying.
The trauma has been something else, honestly. We are still appealing to the government to please do all it can to bring our loved ones to us in no distant time.
The prayed government will come up with a tangible and workable solution before it is too late.
Today is exactly 100 days since our loved ones were abducted in the ill-fated AK-9 train attack. It was a journey of 2 hours that has turned to 100 harrowing days. We have been appealing to the government and security agencies in the last 100 days to rescue our loved ones. But so far, we have not seen much.
We are calling on the government to do the needful. In as much as we are given the opportunity, you understand, to hear our views, we feel it is important, we feel it is imperative for the government to come to the aid of these people and they will hear their demands.
Government is talking of everybody going to school. Children no longer attend to school now. Students don't go to school because of fear of being kidnapped or being killed.
According to media reports, Ansaru Group said in an audio recording they will start killing the kidnapped passengers in 24 hours if the government failed to seek for their release.
And switching gears now, with less than 72 hours to this year's Eid al-Kabir celebration, prices of vegetables and some essential commodities in Kano have been reduced, but the people's purchasing power still cannot match the reduced prices. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibril, who went round some markets across the state, reports that government's inability to pay workers' salary may have worsened the situation. His report.
Yankaba is one of the largest vegetable markets within Kano metropolis. The place is always booming, especially during a period like this. Tomato, onions and other vegetables never cease from here. Few months back, a basket of tomato is sold at between 25 to 35,000 naira, while a bag of onions is at between 30 to 45,000 naira. Now the price has significantly reduced, but the purchasing power of the people is poor at the moment. People do not have money. Now that is Salah period, they are supposed to have money to buy the things they needed. Like me, I bought these tomatoes at almost 12,000 naira. But if you give me 11,000 naira, I will collect because there are no buyers. Back at the popular Kantinkwari textile market, things are somehow dry. Although women have taken over shopping here, but they say clothes are very expensive this year.
Everything is expensive. I came to buy veil and shoe, but I can no longer afford it. It's too expensive. I have to go back with my money because everything is expensive.
According to some Kano residents, state government inability to pay workers' salary is largely responsible for the poor purchasing power of the people. There is no money. Traders among us cannot sell since we don't have money to buy. I think government need to make things easier for people. With the high cost of sacrificial animals and the rising prices of food items and other essential commodities, things appeared bleak for ordinary people this year. And there are even concerns that these things could get worse in the next coming days unless something is done to ease the suffering of the poor masses. Idris Jibril, Trust TV News, Kano.
We will continue to pray. That is what the politicians always tell us whenever we get to this point where things completely look out of hand. But moving on to our major discussion of the day, we will start, and of course we'll be looking at essentially the incidences that involve the Kuje prison in Abuja. The breach of the medium security custodial center, Kuje, has elicited palpable fears and condemnation. It happened hours after President Muhammadu Buhari's advanced team of security and protocol officers was ambushed en route to Katsina. The audacious attack in Kuje started at about 10 p.m. Tuesday night and lasted nearly 3 hours. The situation has caused panic in and around the Federal Capital Territory, with residents apprehensive about their safety. What is the implication of this deadly attack on national security? We are being joined now on the show today by former director at the Department of State Security and Chief Executive Officer of Airport Safety and Security, Mr. Mike Ejiofor, who I understand will join us via Zoom. And here in the studio, we have also another capable team. We have right here with us in the studio security consultant Stephen Okori and Daily Trust General Editor, who is also a disaster expert, Malam Hamza Idris. It's a pleasure to have you join us in the studio, Mr. Okori.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Thank you. And let me also once again.
I've been here for a while.
Madam is almost a co-host now.
Interesting. As you have seen, we would at this point take a short report on the Kuje security situation, prison situation, and when we return, this gentleman will delve to provide us perspective on what has happened.
The Kuje prison, where the event or the infiltration happened yesterday night at about 10 to 10:30 p.m. in the evening, as it has been confirmed by the Minister of Defense. Burned vehicles, especially burned buildings, and generally quiet atmosphere welcome visitors to the center. It came under heavy shelling on Tuesday night when terrorists broke into the custodial center using explosive devices through the main entrance and defense of the facility. Presently, 551 inmates are currently in custody, while 443 inmates are still at large. Government functionaries have been visiting the facility to ascertain the extent of damage with a view of restoring and equipping it to forestall future occurrence. Among the functionaries is the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, who had earlier confirmed the attack.
I think we are trying to see what we can do to ensure that all the escapees are brought back to the prison yard. And I think the prison is accommodating about 994 inmates, and SPP about, we have about 600 already inside now.
Following shortly was the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Shuaibu Belgore, and the FCT Minister, Musa Bello, accompanied by the Goma of Kuje, Al-Haji Haruna Tanko Jibrin.
At least we have retrieved about 300 out of about 600 that got out of the prison cells. And the retrieval is going on. We received reports that there are still about 50-60 that have been intercepted somewhere just a little outside town here.
The gallant officers that tried their best, and also to sympathize over the death of a very fine, gallant officer from the Nigerian Civil Defense Authority who was gunned down by the criminals.
The residents of Kuje community who are apprehensive that the escaped terrorists may be lurking around the unleashed mayhem of the community narrated their experience and urged the federal government to address the situation.
Like they see like this, thing don't too much. You don't lose too much because so kind of things they always up for prison. Maybe today, maybe say tomorrow they will talk. Because you don't always happen steady. Like yesterday we things solved yesterday. We did Junction prison. We did on Junction there. We just stand. Before we know, we just hear something like thing just explode quick. Dim. The first time it's second one explode. Dim. Before we know, just hear soldier man say no begin run. Soldier man wait there, where he's supposed to go come prison to come begin the base. Who too come begin the base. And so all of us come begin the run. One day. Before one day house, come hear people they come they shout, they shoot up and down yesterday. People uniform men begin come out, begin to pursue everybody.
It's bomb that exploded yesterday, last night, and it scared a lot of people. People are around Sketa. And I feel bad about it. For years now, I've been living in this Kuje. I hear insecurity, I hear about bomb, but I have never experienced such a thing like this.
Meanwhile, the service says it will deploy its Corrections Information Management System in synergy with National Identity Management Commission to track all fleeing inmates and return them to custody. It also confirmed that DCP Abba Kyari and other VIPs held in the facility did not escape, adding that some of the attackers were killed, with others escaping with gunshot wounds. From the Kuje prison, I am Musa Luka Musa, Trust TV.
What a way to delve into that report this morning for every average Nigerian who has listened or watched that report and has read from all of the different testimonials that we have had in various media platforms. You only have more questions than answers. And so people ask. This prison is right in the heart of the city of Abuja, where ideally you should expect that security should be at its maximum. you pass through military facilities before you get to this place. But more importantly, is the fact that there have been pockets of attack in Kuje leading to this major one. All kinds of kidnapping have been happening in Kuje. There had been an attempt at this place before. So the question really is, why are we acting as if this attack was a surprise? And this question goes to Mr. Mike. Was this really a surprise attack? Have we not seen this coming, building up to this particular attack, especially given the kind of profile of the prisoners that we have in that facility?
Okay. I want to say thank you for inviting me to share my view or opinion about the topic. It's a shame, really. And for me, it's an embarrassment on the Nigerian state, and particularly on the security agencies that we have in this country. Why is it that most times we always react? We are not proactive, we are only reactive. It has happened, dignitaries, government, political appointees and all that going to look at what happened there. These things can be averted. How? This is not the first time we are having such an attack. We've had, in the last 14 months, different attacks in Ibadan, Kaba, Jos, everywhere. What measures are we putting to see that these things doesn't happen anymore? And I see lack of gross misconduct, unprofessional ways the issues were handled. Number one, vigilance was missing completely, totally. What is vigilance? The action or state of keeping careful watch for possible danger. Was that at play? It wasn't. So when we hear that the military, the police, civil defense and all that were all there, and this kind of attacks happen, then it's better they just leave the place so that we know that these places are vulnerable and open for such attacks.
We now have, I understand, Mike Ejiofor joining us via Skype. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning again.
Thank you.
All right. Just to get your perspective, having watched the report and seen all that had been said in the way and manner this attack, this brazen and audacious attack, if you like, on that facility was carried out, and the fact that no less than over 60, 67, I think, 68 members of the Boko Haram, high-profile Boko Haram members who are kept in these facilities, were freed without what we would best describe as any kind of response from our own security team, or even casualties, if you like, on the part of these people who took on this audacious attack. What do you make of everything that played out in Kuje 48 hours ago?
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised about the attack because the signs have been on ground. All the indications have been on ground that this attack was coming up. But how prepared were we to tackle the situation? We were not actually prepared. The incident has raised a lot of questions that must be answered. And I think the best thing to do is to institute a panel of inquiry to discover exactly what happened. First of all, how many of them came? You know, you read some papers, they tell you 300, they say 400. How did they come? Did they come in bikes? Did they come in vehicles? How did they pass all the checkpoints? Because I'm aware that there are checkpoints on that road, even before the facility. How did they overwhelm the... On one account, they said the people came and they retreated because they were faced by resistance and came back. And when they came back, according to that report, they came with dynamite and blew up the facility before getting access. And the question is, how were they able to know the exact location of where these hardened criminals, the Boko Haram elements, were kept, that they should go into that place and get them freed? A lot of questions. As we progress, we'll be able to provide some solutions to these questions.
Thank you. Coming to Malam Hamza before I hand over to my colleague Ibrahim, the president showed up in this one. Unlike several other places where we had incidences where he probably had not bothered or sent a representative. I mean, but what we are getting is the usual question. The president is also expressing surprise at our own security intelligence gathering. But is there really something to be surprised about? Are you completely satisfied with the response and the body language of the president in the face of this kind of audacious attack?
I am not surprised by his reaction. First, his visit there, as far as I'm concerned, and for any curious Nigerian, is that it was a coincidence because he was jetting out. He was to go to the airport, and probably his handlers felt that by visiting the place, it will assuage the anger, because the anger, has been visible since the incidents that earlier happened in his home state when his advance party was ambushed, and then a gallant assistant commissioner of police was also killed in another incident still in Katsina State. But for the fact that the president really wants to travel out, because people are still asking questions. In other climes, if there is fire in your house, even if you are outside, you come back. But here we are, and those around him, they are defending him that by him remaining at home is like submitting to the antics of the terrorists. I quite disagree. All over the world, if you have an emergency, you shelve whatever plan. You have to attend to the emergency. So first he visited the place, most likely to now show that, of course he did this once. I think he flew to Maiduguri from a certain country when there was a security breach. Yeah, but he's not actually the visiting type, especially within Nigeria, if not operating. I know that a few years ago we had to keep hammering that, okay, go to Osun, go to Lagos, go to Kano. Why are you keen in jetting out without actually going to see, even though we operate a federal system, but the presence of the president in the states will actually, ginger the chief executives there to do the right thing. This is by the way. And then the shock he expressed, I am also not surprised. I am not, because as a security reporter, we know what is happening. They have all gone solo. If you look at maybe this set, maybe they have started synergizing, but the ones he removed earlier, they don't even see eye to eye. When your chief of army staff is not in talking terms with the national security advisor, what do you expect? You get it. And then now he was saying he was disappointed in the intelligence. The intelligence was there. Some of us have seen it. As my colleague here rightly said, they know, they have all the intelligence. In fact, we have, if you are talking about intelligence gathering, Nigeria is excellent. But the issue of rivalry, the issue of
rivalry.
Yes, interagency rivalry, that maybe if civil defense, now they have an intelligence, if they share it with the police will reluctantly look at it and it's not even our intelligence. Good. You see, and this is principally why we are not getting it right. Based on our report, if you read it very well, we give graphic description of what happened and how even the terrorists access the facility. I know that when I was in Maiduguri, before they wreak havoc, you understand, they studied everywhere. They know the allies, where they can move and all that. Some of them became taxi drivers. some were barbers, some were shoemakers, some were selling tomatoes in the market. So they are, while we have good intelligence gathering, they are better than us. And they are miles away, you know, or ahead of us.
Very well.
Yes. I'm telling you, the intelligence was there that they will bomb Kuje, and we have it in our paper. And we stand to be challenged that these people are also planning to attack Kainji on Saladi. They plan to attack Shiroro. Yes, Shiroro. They plan to attack security formation here, all to free their members. So the intelligence is there. Only that sharing and then acting on it for some obvious reason is what is glaringly lacking.
Well, let's go to Mr. Mike now, and as a former director at the DSS, maybe he might be able to shed more light on this intelligence issue. So we all agree that we don't have a problem when it comes to gathering intelligence. Our problem now is how to effectively use this intelligence to be proactive in forestalling these attacks. What could actually be the problem? Because we're just speculating here. Maybe it's because of interagency rivalry, lack of communication, or not even having the apparatus to act on this intelligence. What actually is the problem when it comes to acting on intelligence that we have meticulously gathered?
Well, I must, the last speaker, I must commend you because he's abreast of all the developments. There is no depth of intelligence in what is going on in Nigeria. Is that you don't send a child to the farm without a cutlass. When the intelligence is provided, how is it going to be implemented? What has intelligence got to do with building the walls, strengthening the walls of the facility? What has intelligence got to do with money of the correctional facility? What has intelligence got to do with the attitude of the workers? What has intelligence got to do with the latitude on the part of the workers there? Are you not aware of how telephones are being used in the facility? It's in the public domain. Telephones are being used to communicate with outsiders, even among these hardened criminals. So it becomes very, very, and these are products of intelligence on what is going on there. Of the correctional facilities should retrain their staff, get more facilities, strengthen the security around that area. And you're also aware that this is within the neighborhood, full with bushes and people are living around there. Nobody seems to care. And as long as we continue we will continue to witness, as long as we continue in this way, we'll continue to witness this thing. Just like the other person there said too, before I joined, we are going to have more attacks. No hiding about it. You will recall that in Okene, we used to have several jailbreaks until the place was relocated towards Auchi Road. And you can see a clear view.
We have been interrupted, unfortunately, by the incidences of inconsistency in our network provision. But we come straight to Mr. Okori in the studio. He was trying to point to the fact that we could have done things differently to avert what was happening, starting with even reinforcing the prison system, some of them built over 100 years ago, without new facilities, new reinforcements, some of them housing in multiples of what the carrying capacity of this prison. So by the very nature of these things, it clearly does appear that there were recipes for disaster. He talked about prisoners making phone calls freely with the outside world and all of that. What can we do differently to check this? I mean, you talked about Kaba, you talked about Kenya, there was Benin earlier and the rest of that, and now intelligence about, we also saw attempt with Kaduna, in fact, to think of where the Kaduna prison is, right there at the heart of Kaduna. What can we do differently to avert what is going on?
You see, I discovered that most of Controller Generals, when they assume office, they don't think outside the box. They just keep doing the old-fashioned way of doing things within their organization. The Kuje prison was built in 1989, and it was built to house, is a medium capacity, yes, but it has gone further to begin to house high-profile offenders, like this Boko Haram or swap terrorists that we have. Such category of offenders are supposed to be the maximum prison, you know. So if they now went ahead to see how they begin to house these high-profile offenders, they would have begin to think outside the box. How do we now fortify the Kuje prison, you know? What is there? You build perhaps an extra wall, you know. But as they are coming in, they'll begin to think that that wall that they are saying is the only wall. As they blow that, they begin to see a more solid wall, you know. They can do that. But you see, politics, corruption, sentiment has enveloped their psyche. The moment they make their budget, they begin to think of what they want to make for themselves first, before using the remaining part of the money to see how to do one or two little things around their agency or whatever. So it behoves on them to see how to improve on this. It is not new, just the way Mr. Mike just said. Inmates having access to phones, who do you blame? It's not the agency. You blame the agency. And you see this part of the world, rewards are melted to people when even they fail in their responsibility. As we are talking, for me, the CG should be either on suspension or something. But we're expecting a report from that same organization headed by the CG, and you expect the report will fly. Of course, it is not possible. They will put in things that will make them stay on their job. So I want to advise the federal government to see that an independent body or panel is set up to look into what is happening there and come out with a February report to see how. Moreover, the previous attacks and all that, were there no reports from there? What happened? What happened to those reports? I expect that the gaps in those reports is something that the government should look into and see how to close those gaps, to see how to forestall further occurrence. But are we doing that? Reports end up in shelves full of dust.
Well, reports gathering dust. That brings me to my next question. Mala Hamza, he raised a very valid point, and I think we're all in agreement here that one of the main things that people point to when it comes to the insecurity problem is there's no accountability. Nobody is held responsible when things happen. Now this attack has taken place. A lot of attacks have taken place. Nobody has resigned. Nobody has been fired. Nobody is in jail. Nobody has even been indicted. And you're asking these same people that are supposed to be responsible to tell you what to do, to write reports telling you what happened and what the next step is. Why is it so difficult for the government, as it is right now, to hold those responsible accountable for these lapses?
Because the government is sleeping. This is the summary. You see, Abuja is now the last sanctuary. Yes, why we're having so much pressure on almost everything, the security architecture, the infrastructure, and all that, is because we've lost other territories. They can't keep, we have prisons all over the country, in Maiduguri, in Kano, in Sokoto, and all that. But for fear of, what the terrorists will do to free their people. Now we put all the pressure on prisons around the federal capital, believing that this is the seat of power, the instrument of state will be unleashed on them. But here we are. Nobody is safe, let me be frank with you. If you study what is happening very well, Abuja is no longer safe. All the corridors from here, if you are going to Lokoja, 20 kilometers, you know you are on your own. To Kaduna, 20 kilometers after Zuba, you know you are on your own. If you pass Yanya, you get to Kefi, you are on your own. If you are going to... yeah, you are on your own. The radius, and this is exactly what happened in Borno, that we are still trying to, recover from. So if you allow, miscreants to have their way, to plant their cells, now, before you uproot that cells, it will take a lot. And this is where we are. And as I said, and you can see even the former director also said, we should expect more of this, because these terrorists that they actually freed, it's not that they are going to sleep at home like our, because this directive given for them to explain what happened is just a political statement. Because another terrible thing will happen, very sad, and this one will be overtaken. Because we've been witnessing, security breaches consistently. And whenever we have a new one, the old one is finished. Whenever we have... So, those saddled with responsibility are actually having their way because they know that they would not be held to account. I was discussing with someone who said, if you are lucky to have been appointed in this administration, just go and sleep. Because nothing will happen to your office. Unless you push yourself out of office, just the way ministers push themselves when they went to protest. Because, yes.
Unfortunately.
So it's really sad.
Yes. We understand we have Mr. Eje first, but welcome back on board, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. We have seen in the last couple of days, not just what we saw in Kuje, a pocket of very brazen attacks. In the last 100 days, the Kaduna-Abuja train happened. As sophisticated as that attack was, it still beats some of us how they could coordinate such an attack for the period it lasted, the number of people they took, and the amount of journey they took into the bush without any interception. We have seen the Kuje own, like you rightly pointed out, how they got into the city, how they conducted that fantastic attack, how they evacuated these people to wherever they evacuated them. Only heaven knows how they were able to coordinate those kind of logistics. We have also seen the one in Shiroro at the mines, where we lost quite a number of security personnel, running into 30 or 40 of them. Till today, about 8 soldiers are still missing. And the reports are saying today that people are apprehensive. As a security expert, what more options are available for people, to keep themselves safe, especially in the face of what is happening and the apparent, what would I call it, sign that indifference shown by the government? Because as the two gentlemen in the studios have said, we just get political statements, the government expressing shock, people expressing shock, government expressing surprise, and over this attack, and that is all we get. What can we do as a people, to protect ourselves?
Well, as a people, we have to mobilize ourselves, be conscious of our environment. At this very particular time, we have to be very vigilant. Look out for state faces, because these people must be gotten back to the correctional facilities. If they are not arrested and returned, like I said earlier, we're going to have more problems. Now, we've lost a lot of officers. If you recall, why I'm saying this, I'm not trying to be alarming. But if you recall that on the 26th of April or thereabouts, I can't remember exactly, the State Security Service raised an alarm over these attacks within Abuja, Kuje, and all these areas. And even recently, there were also intelligence that this Kuje facility was going to be under attack. So that's the point I'm making, that it's not issue of what we're saying is that people must be conscious of the environment. People must know that we cannot leave these security apparatus to the security agents alone. That is not also to say, like some governors have been calling for for citizens to arm themselves. No, that's not what I'm saying. People must be conscious of the environment, volunteer information to the security agencies, because if you don't, we're all going to suffer it. I used to tell my friends that I have overcome fear, but it has come to the stage now that I'm getting very security situation in the country, and we cannot fold our hands. So my point is that the people must mobilize themselves in various communities, raise vigilantes in your estates, especially within Abuja, raise vigilantes and make sure your areas are closely monitored. Without that, we're going to have more problems. I think it's the people's responsibility now to take their security in their hands.
All right, Mr. Stephen, you made a very valid point in your first statement when you started talking. You said we are not proactive, always reactive. But even the reaction.
Yes.
I mean, if we are reacting to something, I think if something happens now, we swing into action and then you get some results. Is the reaction enough? Because just like we pointed out, these people came in numbers.
Yes.
They took some form of transport, even if they didn't. I mean, like 200-300 people walking on the road. It's something to raise alarm.
Yes.
They came in, bombed where they wanted to bomb. Took people, more people, which means more numbers.
Added.
And they added to themselves and moved, still either using the vehicles or on foot. And still those people were not tracked, which was the same thing that happened during the train attack. You know, the reaction, even the reaction that we say that we are reactionary, is it really enough? Is it really doing anything?
The reaction here
is the shock.
Is after the damage. You understand?
Yes.
Them coming in, striking, and going away is still part of their operations. They have done it, carried the numbers they wanted to carry, and have left. So the reaction now is after they have gone. You expect result after reaction? You don't expect reaction. Who are you coming to meet? They have packed themselves in drones and left. And we now came to come and see the facility. You are expecting to come and do what? When they have gone, the people that are even supposed to protect the facility. Didn't you hear one of the interviewers?
Yes, he said the soldier told them to run.
And the soldiers even ran. How do you expect results from such reaction? It's for us to come and see the burnt vehicles, the damaged walls and all that.
And express shock and disbelief and dismay.
Begin to look out for the numbers that humbly stayed and refused to run. You know, and now they are scouting and looking for the ones that have left the facility, which is more difficult to do. Is it not proper and better to see that the facility is fortified, security is provided and all that, than going out now, running into bushes and streets looking for inmates that have fled the facility. Possibly they will begin to even capture or arrest innocent people that will look one kind and begin to bring them and add them to the numbers that they have captured, about 400 or 500 numbers. You understand? So, even in reaction, we are still failing. So, it tells a whole lot about the security agencies in Nigeria. You know, you see, professionalism for me has been relegated because I can't just imagine it, that an attack like that will happen and I will not see one single dead body of the bandits or terrorists on the ground. I say, okay, out of the 300 or 200 that came, we're able to kill or we arrested so number. There's no news like that. It's not disappointing.
Quite.
So it emboldens them that they can go and strike, succeed, and retrieve back to their enclave.
Just staying with you, Mr. Okori. I'm trying to remember the year now, but I was getting into the U.S. during the Boston attack.
Okay.
And the attack apparently happened while I was airborne.
Was that not 2013?
And then on arriving, every strategic point in the U.S. already had photos of the likely suspects of this attack.
Yes.
You have held these people in this facility for only God knows how long. 48 hours into this attack, we are not seeing pictures of the people who should have been declared wanted. Just as we didn't even see pictures of those in Lokoja. We didn't see pictures of the over 1,000 that escaped in Benin. You tell us to be careful. We could be infiltrated with people. We don't know what their faces are. Everybody can put on a cloth and look decent as we are in the studio. You don't have biometrics that you are sharing with anybody. We claim to have 2 or 3 satellites up there in the sky. We can't deploy the satellite or drones that were even built by Dicons to do this chase. The question for the average Nigerian then is, Mr. Okori,
yes,
is it the absence of the facilities to do these things or the absence of the technical know-how to deploy facilities that we have celebrated in public space, just as we did with Tucanos and probably packed them somewhere from some kind of visitations and excursion program? What is the problem? Is it manpower? Is it lack of intelligence or completely the unwillingness of people around these corridors to do what is right?
It's all-encompassing. What you have ironed out here, they are all part of the issues or the challenges. Now, I give you an instance about the Shiroro issue that happened. Imagine bandits or terrorists. If I tell you that they are even more or well-trained than even our personnel, will you be surprised? For them to even think that as our men are going to strike, let us lay an ambush for possible reprisal from the law enforcement agency. They were calculative. And this thing happens, you must think. They were calculative, they laid an ambush. Imagine the soldiers that came to go and see how to stop that incident. Did they get there? They did not get there. Because these criminal elements, they think. But our own personnel, do they think? What are they working with? There was no backup. Okay, this advanced team, go. The next 15 minutes or so, another team will come or something. There was nothing like that. There was no support. Areas. The planes and whatever that we have bought, what are we using them for? So we expect an area surveillance support. They need to support the ground troops. But is that going on? It's not working. Do I need to come and begin to teach them that now? These are things that they ought to know. They are supposed to know. So training, retraining is very key. Of course, we know that technology plays a whole lot of role, very, very key roles in what we are saying, even more than what the human beings can do. But how well have we acquired this technology? Are they sophisticated enough? Do we have personnel that can operate this technology that we are talking about? So a whole lot. They need to go back to their drawing board and sit down and begin to look at the gaps we are experiencing. And you see, any attack or any operation at all, it calls for an improvement. If you experience this, you go to the drawing board. Where do we lack in this thing? How do we improve on it? Do we even have such team that is really working on it? So all this, my brother, it's a sad one.
It is quite indeed. So let me direct this to Mr. Ejiofor. Finally, let me have your final take on this particular issue. We have analyzed this issue from different points, and we've identified what the problems are. we've looked at them from different perspectives. I believe anyone in Nigeria, everyone in Nigeria knows that the security apparatus in Nigeria is really nothing to write home about as it is right now. What can we do to be able to mitigate these things?
What the government should do is set up a high-powered panel to investigate exactly what happened, know who failed in his or her duties. Because if we don't do that, these things will continue to occur, like one of you there said, no accountability. If you continue to allow these things to happen without taking action or holding people accountable, will continue to witness. So I suggest a high-powered panel of investigation, because I suspect, seriously, compromise and complicity among the staff. That's my view. But it's only an investigation set up by all these allegations. I am not happy, no Nigerian is happy, that you cannot travel. I travel by road. You can't, for some time now, I have not traveled to Delta through Lokoja. You cannot go to Kaduna. It's like we are caged in now. The situation is very dicey, and it calls for urgent action. More so when we are going to election. You know, election comes with upsurge in crimes. And if we add more to what we have on ground now, my brother, it's going to be very, very catastrophic.
Thank you very much.
And again, vigilance on part of the citizens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ejiofor. Coming back to the studio to Malam Hamza, I would like your final thoughts on what has happened. We have dwelt so much on the intelligence leading to the attack. We have dwelt so much on the nature of the attack and all of the weaknesses associated thereof. What is the way forward? He had talked about some, the need to investigate. But beyond the need to set up that panel and investigate, what do we need to do? Especially, as he pointed out, leading into an election. Incidentally, we have a long election calendar this year. For the next 7-8 months, I don't think we will know peace until the next president emerges. What can we do differently?
For me, while they do the investigation, they set up the panels and all that, I think they should swing into action. With your phone now, if you go to Google, you just take the aerial view of Abuja and environs. The cells of these terrorists are there. Am I wrong, sir?
No.
So what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Why can't you go and bomb them until they come? So I expect the relevant security agencies to take the war to the terrorists because they know where they are. I can assure you 100% there is no thing that is hidden. But they always hide under saying they don't want collateral damage. In the first place, why did you allow them to go and abduct people that they will use as human shield? When you know that they have established a certain cell ahead of attacking a certain place. You just go and bomb them. So my suggestion is that while they do all the classroom and book thing, they should swing into action. And then we should also have night vigil facilities. Yeah, because I was discussing with someone yesterday while putting our stories. He said they saw the path that these terrorists move with their colleagues, but they could not do anything because no night vision. So they could not do anything. And now they went and settled. And I can assure you that they know where they are now. But they will keep dragging that. Maybe among those that were set free, there are innocent people. So we will not kill the innocent people. We have to remain the way we are. I think we should act more than doing the administrative thing. Yeah, we are in an emergency. This is what I have.
For want of time, this is the much that we can accommodate. I'm sure these issues will continue to agitate our minds in the coming days. Nigerians are watching, looking at the body language of the president and everybody around the corridors of power, to do something to at least give back confidence to people that they can go about their lawful activities, their lawful business, if not anywhere else, but within and around the Federal Capital Territory. It's a sad commentary in our national lives, and we look forward to better days from here. It's been a pleasure having this gentleman with extreme expertise, with over 100 years of joint expertise put together, talk to you this morning about what has happened and what we need to do going forward. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio once again. My elder brother and senior colleague in the media practice, Mala Hamza Idris.
Co-host
and co-host, if you like. Yes, and Mr. Okori, and very importantly, our regular guest and friend of theirs, Mr. Mike Ejiofor. It's a pleasure having you give us perspective on this issue, and we hope that when next we call, you would have the opportunity to join us. Maybe this time we will be discussing about the successes that we would have recorded in the fight against terrorism, and not just lamenting about what you have lost and the amount of damage they've caused our society. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning. Viewers, that is the much we can take this morning. This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Daybreak on Trust Television. It's been a pleasure to have you ride with us this morning. I am Sunday Michael Ogo.
And I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Let's do this all again tomorrow. Have a lovely day.